Well, this is going to be a quick one because it's an oldie that people might have played and it's relatively old hat. It's Super Bust-A-Move for the Game Boy Advance and you're doing it all wrong. You slap the Super moniker if you're putting it on the Super Nintendo. For the GBA, you call it Bust-A-Move Advance or something like that. Maybe that's the Puzzle Bobble version. Maybe I don't care. Let's go with that one. A 2001 release courtesy of Ubisoft and Taito, Super Bust-A-Move is based on the PS2 version of the game of the same name or something like that. Not that it really matters because Bust-A-Move is one of those games where the gameplay is somewhat evergreen. If you've played one of these things, you've pretty much played them all. It's not a knock if the gameplay is solid and doesn't need much refinement, and that's certainly the case with the Super Bust-A-Move game. For those unfamiliar with Bust-A-Move, aka Puzzle Bobble, you control a cannon gimmick, and your goal is to clear all the bubbles from the board by shooting similar colored bubbles at chunks of other similar colored bubbles. Creating chunks of 3 or more bubbles of the same color will also cause said bubbles to disappear. Every so often the board will push the bubbles closer downwards, and if one of the bubbles passes your bottom line, the game ends. When you start a new game, in the first level, you have a line of sight gimmick that will help you with your aiming. Unless you're playing the training mode, this only lasts the first stage or the first stage after you continue, and then you're on your own, using the D-pad to aim your cannon thing while using the B button to fire. You can also use the trigger buttons to inch your cannon left or right for more precise aiming, which is nice because you need to make some tight shots to get the bubbles in the right place. But I find there's no real difference between using the triggers and the D-pads in terms of overall control. It's just a choice for the player, I suppose. The standard arcade mode gives you 3 different courses, a short training mode which gives you a few basic boards and a permanent line of sight gimmick, a classic course which I assume is the basic Bust-A-Move fare, and a normal mode which has new boards and introduces new things like giant bubbles and stuff like that. There's also a couple versus modes against a computer and against another player via Game Link respectively if you want to go that far and if you can find another player that also has a copy of the game. Now, full disclosure, Super Bust-A-Move has the tendency to put me to sleep. I'm not joking. I'll be playing one night and next thing you know I'll start to doze off and fall asleep. And it's not because I find the game to be boring or anything. Bust-A-Move has always been a simple, easy to understand, difficult to master sort of thing, and this iteration certainly continues that trend by giving you a multitude of boards and puzzles to solve. Controls well enough, not much to that. The battle mode is a fun little thing with a friend if you could find that one that has a copy of the game. The CPU, kind of like a bit of a tough thing, but if you could beat it, great. I've played a number of these Bust-A-Move games that I've enjoyed and stayed awake for the most part, but this super iteration on the GBA always causes me to doze off for some reason or another, resulting in occasional periods where I'd be in the middle of a session, fall asleep, only to wake up and find myself staring at a game over screen. I suppose part of this is due to the cutesy yet droning musical bits that comprises Super Bust-A-Move's soundtrack. I've played other Bust-A-Move games with some catchy jingles, but these are suitably lullaby music that puts me to sleep. This had to be the case because one day I managed to play a quick session while staying awake for an extended period and realized I kept the volume low to the point where I couldn't hear the music. So I don't know, maybe there's something to that. Maybe it's just me. Sound effects are kind of whatever. Graphics are like average cutesy fare, I suppose. In terms of the playfield and such, everything's clear and colorful. It's easy to identify stuff, even with a vanilla GBA. Everything around the board is it is what it is. Even by cutesy standards, it's really nothing special. I've seen better, but then again, I've seen worse as well. I like that there's different backgrounds for the 200 plus puzzles you have to tackle in this game. If there was a way to save your progress or revisit the boards you've cleared or something, I don't know. Overall, Super Bust-A-Move is an adequate iteration of the long-running franchise on the Game Boy Advance, and really, what more is there to say? Gameplay is true to its roots, the puzzles are often challenging and enjoyable, there's a fun versus mode you could play with another player or the computer. If you want a Puzzle Bobble game on your GBA, this is a pretty good version of it, and hopefully, you'll be more conscious than I was playing it. Now I kind of feel bad. Actually, no, I don't feel bad. I actually feel tired. Yeah, I'm gonna go to bed now. Good night.